Thomas Watson. I'm Vice President over at Guardsman Insurance Services, working out of our office in Canada. And today I'm going to talk to you about your insurance during the pandemic. So I will ask you to hold all of your questions until the end of my presentation, and then I can answer any questions that you have at that time. One thing I would like to make clear, even though I am an insurance broker, I am not your insurance broker, so I can only speak in generalities. If you have specific questions about your own policy and how it's going to respond, please do talk to your own broker, as they're going to be in the best position to give you advice. So with that, I'd like to start with that button. There we go. So first, just take a quick look at this timeline of the pandemic. So 25th of January 2020, we had a man in his 50s return from the Wuhan province of China. He was our first presumptive case. On the 28th of January, we confirmed he actually had it. 12th of February is when Ontario's first case of COVID-19 resolved. The 5th of March is when we got our first case of transmission. The 11th of March is when the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. The 12th is when Ontario closed its schools. And on the 17th, Ontario declared a state of emergency that we're still currently in, and that's when all of our businesses started shutting down. So the reason I went through that is to show you just how quickly things have happened, and it will help clarify some of the positions the insurance companies are taking or planning on taking. So to start with, we have three major impacts of COVID-19. First one, obviously, is businesses are closed. The non-essential businesses are closed. Even some essential businesses have elected to close their doors at this time. Following that, we have many people who are unemployed and are now receiving government assistance. So whether that's EI or the CERB, a lot of folks that have a much different financial situation now than they did a month and a half ago. And finally, the people who are working, in a lot of cases, are working from home, working in risky situations. So those are our hospital workers, our gas station attendants, our stock boys at the grocery store, everyone that can't stay home and do their jobs. And some folks that are working less. So again, the precarious financial situation that we're all experiencing. So I'm going to start with our small business insurance and just give you some general tips about what you should be doing and what the insurance companies are doing as well. So the first thing that I need to make very clear to everyone is, unless your business is shutting down, clearing out of your space, and you're not going to reopen, do not cancel your insurance policy. I know it may seem frustrating paying for insurance policies when your business isn't doing anything or much at all, but you do have liability coverage, and you need to make sure you keep that in force as long as your business is going to be continuing operations. As well, your business property coverage. Yeah, I know it's not great, your offices aren't open, but you still have all your business property in those offices that need to stay protected. The number one piece of advice I can give is absolutely do not cancel your policy unless the business is shutting down completely. After that, when it comes to premium relief measures, each insurance company is doing something very different, and totally impossible for me to go over them all. So the best advice is on the business end, talk to your broker or agent about what premium relief measures may be available to the business policy. Each company is going to do something a bit different. Some are reducing premiums, some are not reducing premiums, some are agreeing that they're going to review your premium at the end of the year and see what your premium should be based on how things finally shook out for us. Okay? The next big thing is be aware of what your insurer's requirements are for checking on your locations. So even though your business is closed down, no one's going into the restaurant anymore, your store is closed, you still have a requirement to check on the location to make sure everything's broken, there's been no floods, things like that. So double check what your insurer's requirement is on that. You do have a requirement in your policy, and again, each company is going to be a bit different, but usually they want you checking on it at least once a year. Okay. The next thing you can do, update your revenue figures with your insurance company. So your liability premium is based in a large part on your actual revenue that you have as a business. So if your revenue's gone from $100,000 to $30, you've got no revenue coming in, update your policy. It may not make a big difference now, but coming up to your renewal, it may help you at that time. Next thing is anyone here who's got a business that's bricks and mortar, they've been working from an office and they're now working from home, or more importantly, you've now got employees working from home. If you don't have cyber liability coverage, now is the perfect time to purchase cyber liability coverage. because you've got your employees working from home, they're using their computers, they're using their internet connections. And you need to be aware that there is some cyber liability on that end. So what we're looking at here is your data breach, all of that stuff that you don't want. Okay? And then the final point on the business insurance is if your operations are changing, make sure your insurer is aware of it. So if you're a manufacturer and you're making widgets and you're now retooling to make masks and gowns and all of that good stuff, make sure you tell your insurer because they're probably going to need to make some changes to the policy. Okay? So moving on from there, I just want to talk about where I see small business insurance going in the future. So yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic now, but things are likely going to change. Expect to see a lot of clarity around pandemic coverage and exclusions. So generally pandemics are excluded, but there's some wording that's not clear or difficult to understand. So we can expect to see in the coming months much clearer wording on this. After that, the next thing we're likely going to see is that the hard market we're in right now, where it's hard to get business insurance and the prices are higher than we'd like to see, we expect we're going to see that continue and that this pandemic may actually make it last a lot longer than we thought it would. Again, just anything that's going to increase the uncertainty in the market is going to have a problem on the price. There have been some court cases launched over business interruption coverage. So in general, business interruption coverage does not provide coverage unless there's been physical loss or damage to the insured business. And there's some lawyers that are saying a pandemic is physical loss or damage. So we expect in the future the courts will rule on that and see what. Next thing I can see coming down is we might get some modifications on the property supervision requirements. So going forward, knowing that this is a thing that may pop up, insurance companies may change what they consider to be appropriate viewing of the properties and appropriate keeping track of your stuff. And one thing I've seen a lot of is we're going to see an increase in people's interest in purchasing pandemic coverage. So reality is most folks don't have it, and they're now interested in whether they can get it and how much it's going to cost if they need it down the road. So I'm sure you've all seen the news article about Wimbledon that's been paying for pandemic coverage for 20 years and then got a payout that was north of 140 million pounds. So for them, it made perfect sense, got paid out. For a lot of businesses, they don't have it. And unfortunately, for a lot of businesses that may want it, it may not be. I'm going to move on to your home insurance now. On the home insurance, currently there's not a lot of premium relief widely available. So even though we're all not working as much, we still own homes, and the things that can go wrong to homes, namely fire, floods, all that good stuff, they can still happen. Best advice, don't cancel your home insurance policy. I have had some clients say, you know what, I'm going to take my chances and cancel my home insurance policy to save $2. Don't do that. The risk of you having a problem with your home, particularly fires, has gone up. So we're all at home now. We're all cooking at home more often. The likelihood of you actually having a problem with your house while you're there all the time has gone up when it comes to whole fires and all of that good stuff. So just don't cancel insurance. If you are working from home, particularly if you're a business owner working from home now, check to make sure that your property insurer doesn't have any interesting rules about home-based businesses. So in the event of a home-based business, again, you need to be aware that there are some restrictions on that with the home insurance policy. So make sure that your insurer doesn't have a problem with you. I do know the insurers I work with right now are being very flexible, and they're just saying, you know what, let us know. We're not going to do anything to raise your rates. We're just going to take note of it and move on to the time. And then anyone here who's got a pandemic project that they're working on, they're saying, you know what, I'm home, now is a great time to renovate my kitchen or redo the bathroom or add a deck, all of those good things. They're going to change the nature of your home. They're going to increase the value of your home. And you need to make sure your insurance company is aware of that so they can amend your policy accordingly. So most policies have a requirement that if you're increasing the value of your property somehow, so renovations or updates, you have to let the insurance company know so they can make sure. So even though you're throwing in a new kitchen, tell your insurance company you're adding a new kitchen or that you're putting the granite countertops, whatever it is. Now, it's never a bad thing to tell your insurance company when you're improving the house. Just make sure. I'm going to move on now to everyone's big one, including the news. We're going to talk about auto insurance. So premium relief is available on auto insurance, but it differs amongst the different insurance companies. A key here that I get a lot is when they say up to 15% discount on the auto insurance, depending on it, the key is up to 15%. Some folks are going to get 15%, but many more are not going to get 15%. What we're looking at here is people who are heavy drivers. So they were driving 30, 40 kilometers to work every day, all day, and had lots and lots of annual mileage. If they phone their insurance company and they're now driving to the grocery store once a week, they're likely going to see up to 15% reduction. But for those of us who already weren't driving to work and have a commute use, there's not going to be a lot that you're going to get for changing your use. When they say up to 75%, what they mean there is that you're suspending coverage on your car, which means you're not driving at all. So obviously, if you don't drive the car at all, it's parked and it never moves, and you take the coverage off of it so that it can't be driven, you're going to save a lot of money on your insurance. Okay? Big tip here is if your usage has changed, absolutely update your policy. So the companies I work with all have forms that your broker can fill out to submit to the company. They'll amend your usage for 90 days right now, give you a bit. If you do have two cars, consider parking one of them for at least a month, right? If you've got two and you don't need two on the road right now, park one, take the coverage off of it to make sure that you're going to save a bit of money. You can keep the fire and theft on your car. And again, talk to your own broker or agent about what's going to work best in your specific situation. If you're picking up a side hustle, so Uber Eats, things like that, make sure you're insured for it. So if the use of your vehicle is going to change and you're going to end up driving your vehicle for commercial use, make sure your insurer is aware and that you're properly protected. The last thing you want is to trying to bring in some side money to help the family out through this difficult time, get in a car accident and find out that the policy is not going to provide any coverage for you. Not only are you not going to get your car repaired, but now you're on the hook for some medical bills and possibly a lawsuit and all those good things that you could have had protection for if you just made a quick phone call to your insurance company and made sure you're properly protected. And then finally, my best advice is don't cancel your policy. Okay? If you need car insurance, make sure you keep your car insurance enforced as best you can, and to consider sticking with your insurance company for the next year. So even though your renewal may be coming up in 8 months, strongly look at considering whether you just want to stay with your current company. The reason for that is insurance is always pricing today's price based on last year's claims to pay next year, or last year's claims to pay next year's accidents. So next year, we're probably going to see some rate changes based on the fact that accidents will go down this year. And the best way you're going to see those changes and see those savings is to stay with the company you're with right now. The other thing to look at is the government has changed the rules to allow for premium rebate. Previously, that's something insurance companies can't do. So we expect that there could be a chance that insurance companies may be giving some premium dollars back to their clients down the road. Really, the only way you can be sure you'll get that if your insurer does that down the road is to make sure you're still a client of that insurer. So best advice is stay the course, talk to your broker and agent, and get through this together. And then my final point is the claims. So on the claims piece, we're still processing claims, right? We still have a legal obligation to process claims as they come in, and insurance companies are still doing that. We do have a lot of innovation and changes to the processes on how we're doing that. I actually had a claim yesterday where the insurance company hopped on FaceTime with the insured to look at the damage rather than sending an adjuster to the house. They said, you know what, we'll just hop on, we'll take a look at the damage, we'll get a contractor out to start the work as quick as we can. So that's something that previously we wouldn't have done. So it's kind of nice to see that we're modernizing the procedure and trying to make things work. Currently, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we just started flood season. Our good friends in Fort McMurray, unfortunately, are underwater again. So that does mean that our wait times have increased. We are going to see longer hold times. It may take a little bit longer than we would like to start getting things sorted out, but we are going to get. And a few insurers, in fact, many of the ones I've talked to, have switched from handling claims on an as they come in basis to handling the most severe losses first. So that means if you phone in now with a small fender bender, but your car is drivable, a guy phones in 20 minutes later and his car is not drivable, the guy with the non-drivable car is going to get looked after first to make sure that they can get back on the road and that they can use resources as best as possible. At the end of the day, the insurance companies are being so far, and I don't see any reason that's going to change. The all got lots of staff, and there are lots of independent adjusters that are stepping in to fill the gaps as they pop up. So I don't predict we're going to see a huge problem on getting your